As one drives down the long river road in Alton, they may be curious to know what they are seeing on the bluffs. What imagination could have possibly spawned this creation? And more importantly, why was it there? Today, we try to unravel the mystery of the Piasa Bird. Aside from the famous mural, where can we actually find one?
Maybe you have to wonder, what if there was a real Piasa bird? So today, we're going to go find out. Or not, because I'd rather not be crushed by a falling rock.
I traveled to downtown Alton. Aside from a few interesting detours, I went to visit the office of Donald Huber, an Alton historian.
The Piasa bird was really first recorded. Its existence was first witnessed by Europeans in 1673 when Marquette and Joliet came down the river. They told of this big image of this dragon, so to speak, that was that the Indians paid homage to, more or less, but they didn't really quite understand what it was.
To dig out more information about this enigma, I visited the Second Reading Bookshop. Among these rows of knowledge, I spoke with author John Dunphy, who has dedicated much personal time to research on the Piasa bird.
Well, as a lifelong resident of this area, I grew up hearing stories about the Piasa bird. And as a young boy, I believed the version that was in circulation then and circulation now, namely that the Piasa bird was an authentic Native American legend concerning a great winged monster that swooped down on hapless Native Americans and carried them off for a fast food meal until one really brave warrior had a vision from the Great Spirit that he should offer himself as live bait to the monster.
Evidently, in this dream, he was revealed to him that the only place that the bird was, they shot arrows at this bird, they just bounced off because it had these scales on the outside, but the bird didn't have scales under its wings, which they didn't know. So they basically laid a trap. Watoga stood on top of the bluffs in plain view. The Piasa bird swoops down to gather him up for lunch.
And when it swooped down, 20 warriors would emerge from cover and send poison arrows into the Piasa and therefore slay this monster once and for all.
One could take comfort in the outcome of this story, but where did the legend come from?
Where it came from and who the author of it is probably not really well established, but it appeared in literature here in Alton as far back as, this is an 1896 publication called Poems of the Piasa, which is done by a guy named Frank Reel. He lived up on the bluffs. There are a number of stories in here, but the thing starts off with the legend of the Piasa bird.
However, this legend is not as authentic as it may appear to be.
When I became older, I began doing a bit of digging, and I discovered that while indeed Marquette and Joliet, or Joliet as we say around here, did see two strange pictographs on the bluffs in 1673 when they were journeying down the Mississippi exploring this area, what they saw bears no relation whatsoever to the Piasa bird legend as we know it today. The legend of a great winged monster carrying off Native Americans and devouring them was essentially the work of one John Russell.
Had one man truly created this popular image?
While he was here, evidently he heard stories about the pictographs, which by then, certainly this is the early 19th century, no longer existed. They'd since been worn away. And he was a writer with a romantic bent of mind, and he created this wonderful story, which is the Piasa bird legend that we know today. It was published in the Alton Telegraph, a number of frontier newspapers. In the 1830s, this was the Western frontier, of course. And he presented it as a factual investigation. He claimed to have found a bone cave in the bluffs that contained just, oh, thousands of bones, some of which of human beings, and he insinuated that he had stumbled upon the monstrous lair. But he presented his story as an authentic Native American legend, but it was not. It was a story he concocted. It's a very good story, too, very amusing. I don't want to take it out of circulation, but we should not believe for a moment that it is authentic Native Americana.
Even if the story is not authentic, the legend of the Piasa Bird is still a strong reminder of the rich history of Alton and southern Illinois. For Global Village, I'm Steve Klotz.
This is a cat, not a Piasa Bird. This is a cat. There's nothing supernatural about her. Don't hold her blackness against her. She just wants to be with me.